Welcome to another live stream, guys. Bitcoin is about an hour away from closing a potentially very ugly weekly candle. So I want to take a look at the weekly chart, but also developments on the 4-hour chart and lower. So I actually want to take a quick look at the 4-hour first to take a look at the more recent price action here, you guys. And unfortunately, the weekend price action that we've got here didn't really do Bitcoin any favors. As I kept mentioning the other day, it was likely that we were basically going to trade up to the trending 4-hour resistance and trade sideways on low weekend volatility Saturday, basically, which we've been seeing quite a bit recently. And then Sunday, closer to the weekly close, see that trend basically continue. And so far, that's exactly what it's looking like, you guys. I was talking about this 4-hour trend. I mean, for quite a while now, you guys know that I've been saying that even when we get these little bounces, there's nothing bullish about this 4-hour chart, just because we keep setting these lower lows and lower highs. And each one of these yellow lines is they're getting smaller and smaller, but we are still setting lower lows, confirming lower highs. And basically, that's what I was talking about going into the weekend, that this was the last structure break that we had basically on the micro trend, something like this. And notice where we ended up getting our bounce to. Even on that microstructure, we end up testing the 786, not once, but twice, and then carrying on lower. So at this point, you guys, there has been a bit of a development here where we've set another lower low at this point, right? We have this low that I was watching, and we have set a new lower low. So at this point, I now have a new confirmed lower high on the trend, basically something like that. It never changed a ton. However, it did change just because we have this low. Lower low, highest point between the two is right here, sitting at around 96.8 thousand US dollars. So as long as the bulls cannot push us above that level, things are still looking quite bad. And guys, this is something that I had mentioned basically all weekend and leading up to the weekend in the Telegram channel. I was warning about this type of structure. Even on the 5-minute, it was nasty. Just a nasty downtrend that lasted over $10,000 of pushing to the downside. So absolutely crazy. And if that is something that interests you, you want to see more examples, how I pull fibs, how I look at market structure in general, just want more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code on the screen, get into my private Telegram. And guys, currently also have another day or two here. You can see this wraps up on November 18th. My partners at BloFin currently still running this deposit bonus promo. So if that is something that interests you, get involved there. But yeah, guys, like I said, the 4-hour basically looking bad at this point. I hate to say it, but even if we get some sort of a bounce, things just aren't looking good. I have been warning about this type of price structure for quite a while now, and as well as Confluence, looking at the MDX Trendmaster, we're still printing those lower buy signals. We're still printing lower sell signals. So even if we end up getting slightly above that basic market structure, we do still have resistance on the indicator coming down as far as the 4-hour trend goes. So unfortunately, I don't have good news for the bulls right now on the 4-hour, especially the fact that, just like I was predicting, Sunday momentum comes in and we set a new lower low. So many people, we end up bouncing for a couple of hours. We see a couple of hours of bullish price action and everyone starts saying that the bottom's in and that sort of thing, you guys. We have not broke a lower high on this trend ever since we ended up getting that big capitulation event about 4 weeks ago. We have had bearish structure on the 4-hour ever since, because that's where we lost our higher low on the trend. Ever since that, we're just printing lower lows, confirming lower highs. So until that changes, unfortunately, I can't really give you a price target at this point. I mean, I have theories or whatever, but really at the end of the day here, I mean, not actually at the end of the day, but just how I look at market structure, I'm not interested in guessing where this market structure is going to change. I want to actually see it happen. And what I was thinking that may happen is if the bulls were going to take a stab at reclaiming this trend at all, that we would have ended up seeing us break above one of those lower highs on the trend and then retest support, if anything, and then carry on to the upside. That would have been fantastic. But as it stands right now, we're still just trending to the downside aggressively. Even if you just wanted to basically start the trend from right here and not look at the actual macro trend, even since this right here, This would have been basically where we lost our bullish structure here. And ever since, we just basically, okay, there's our lower low. We confirm this as our bearish pivot. But after that, lower low, confirm lower high, lower low, confirm lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So it's just not breaking, right? That trend. The trend is your friend until the end. And until we see that break, I'm not really interested in getting bullish at this point. I'm not saying that there isn't bounce opportunities to be played. I mean, I was even saying on stream yesterday, you guys, I am in a little bit of a long on Ethereum as well as Solana. Not because I'm bullish on them, just because they're at potential buy levels, but I have way more exposure to the downside because I am way more bearish on this market. But just in general, I was willing to buy those just because it is such a tight invalidation setup. And as well, Aster actually performing very well compared to the Bitcoin trend and everything, you guys. I mean, this is one that I shared this setup with you guys ahead of time on a live stream, and then also mention it ahead of time in my Telegram channel. That basically, again, just like with Solana and Ethereum right now, it's not that I was bullish by any means. I was just looking at buying a swing fail, basically. And I mean, so far, if the remaining 40% of that position, I mean, it's over a 600% profit right now. I'm going to let that runner run if it does. And if the rest gets stopped at break even, so be it. But at this point, everything's just looking so nasty still. I mean, Bitcoin just does not look good. The 5 minute, we just can't really gain any momentum. Like I said, the 4 hour looks bad. And guys, let's get into it. Let's get into the weekly here. Like I said, there could be a very nasty weekly candle close coming up. And this will be in about 52, 53 minutes. Yeah, 52 minutes approximately. This is the weekly logarithmic chart. I like to use the logarithmic when I'm looking at the weekly chart, just because then I can fit all market cycles in. You can see every market cycle ended up basically getting to my STUBER fib pockets. It doesn't look like it just because it is the log scale, but this is the 786, 886 fib pockets from every market cycle, and everyone has done the same so far. Not saying we have to get the same, but at this point, we just see some very serious structure forming in the chart that we have broke this. And I mean, this was already last week, you guys. The log chart, I've actually been quite bearish about this chart, the weekly chart in general, for about 5 weeks, ever since we ended up losing this order block, flipping it into resistance. And even last weekly candle on the log scale, we already lost that diagonal support and the double whammy with the horizontal support, right? So last week's candle actually lost both those structure points on the weekly log scale. But now we also have it on the regular weekly chart, is that this weekly candle, I mean, anything can happen in the next hour here, but this weekly candle looks like it's going to close below that diagonal support trend line as well. And if that happens, I would not be surprised to see us get some sort of a bounce, but really watch out for some sort of a support resist flip here. Normally I like to have at least 3 touch points on a trend line. I only consider this one here. I consider this one, and we never got the third before the break. So it is missing a third touch point. However, since it is the weekly, there could be some serious momentum there. So if we start to see some sort of a retest of approximately 97,000 and we start getting rejected there, that could be very nasty for the trend. I am leaning towards thinking that is a big possibility that ends up happening, whether that ends up being first thing tonight after the weekly close, or tomorrow or Tuesday, whatever, going into the week at some point. I just would not be surprised to see us get that little bounce. Everyone will be celebrating that the bottom's in again. And as we end up hitting resistance or flipping that old support into resistance, it could get very nasty, you guys. Let's just see. I want to bring up a couple of indicators here. Weekly RSI is still dropping. It is literally, the RSI is lower than it's been this entire bull market ever since bottoming. We lost our support level here. So I don't want to say it's oversold. I would rather look at it that, hey, we're losing support on the RSI. So again, a little bit of momentum there. The stock RSI down here. This one does look a little bit more oversold. However, I wouldn't really give it too much credit until it starts basically curling back to the upside and reclaiming this green line, our 20 level, basically. At that point, I would say that, okay, maybe there's some momentum forming there. But at this point, it's just still that oversold territory in a downtrend is actually just a lot of strength to the downside basically at this point. So guys, it just, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it just does not look good to me. And if the weekly candle cannot recover very quickly or, even after the candle close, maybe it ends up reclaiming this line, I would still think that that's a sign of weakness. And even if we reclaim it and get some sort of a bounce like so, I think we would still be running into problems at our next resistance levels, just because I think this would be a warning shot. But yeah, if we just end up flipping this old support into resistance, I mean, I think it's lights out for Bitcoin. It could go a lot lower. We're going to have to see. Anything is possible. The thing is, I'm not trading the weekly chart, right? I'm more so trading the 5 minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, stuff like that. But I am open to the idea of looking at the weekly from time to time and understanding that what direction do I think this can go, because everyone is under the impression that we need to be bottoming out soon, when to me it looks like we are only just literally today in the next hour going to confirm that we've started any sort of a loss and uptrend, right? So a lot of people thinking that it's almost over. I'm seeing it as just beginning. So happy to be wrong about that. Obviously, I still have my spot holdings. My spot positions are getting wrecked too, just like everybody else. But as far as trading, and that's what we are on this trading this channel period, right? Is I'm more so looking at things as from a trading perspective, and from trading, I am not opposed to favoring the bearish side when I see that the macro chart looks like this, basically. Just to do a little bit of a bias check, this is the inverted chart. Right? I mean, if you feel bullish about this, because that's a big ass bullish breakout right there after very nice respected trend line, and then even respecting it on the flip there, that looks very bullish to me. And that is just the inverted weekly logarithmic chart, right? So sometimes I like to do that to check my bias. So if you have a hard time with that, that's something you might want to consider. Bitcoin right now trying to find some sort of support. It just looks nasty. It just looks nasty across most time frames, you guys. Ethereum so far still holding our support pocket. Like I said, I am still building a bit of a long there. I still have another order down closer to the bottom of my green box there. Again, no idea if it's going to play out, but a buy level is a buy level for me. Solana, same thing. My average entry is now kind of right in the middle of my swing fail box. I pointed this out earlier last week. And yeah, so far just still building that position. If it gets stopped out, it gets stopped out. And my Bitcoin shorts are going to take over anyways, and they are much heavier anyways. But again, a buy level is a buy level, just like it was on Aster, and why I took that one, right? So Zcash starting to look a little bit weak. There is this bearish divergence on the RSI right as we are trading in a 786, 886 resistance pocket, basically on the 4 hour chart. So some very serious resistance there. It is risky, obviously, if you're playing either direction, because if you're playing the long side of things, you are longing into resistance. If you're shorting, like me, looking for those scalp shorts, then you're obviously fighting the trend. So just always keep risk management in mind, basically, when you're looking at something as volatile as that. Because yes, I am playing some shorts on something like this. However, that does not mean that I'm looking at shorting it to zero and getting crushed if that goes against me, right? Just like any other trade setup, I'm just looking to short resistance, and if it gets invalidated, so be it. TAO, this guy has been fun to trade recently as well. I've been warning about this one in the Telegram as well, that it's got some nasty market structure. So even though it looks like, here, for one, we ended up losing the higher sell signals, the higher buy signals on the MDX Trendmaster on the 4 hour. So we ended up losing that support, right? And we're still respecting that sell signal, the blue line, as it's pushing to the downside. That is acting as very active resistance for Tau right now. Another thing that unfortunately is this makes things a little bit messy. It's very possible. I mean, we don't have to fill this wick back here, but so often the market loves to end up pushing assets like this, for example, to fill these wicks, basically. So that's another reason why I don't think it would be all too crazy to see the bears end up pushing this down significantly lower, and that 786 would basically line up around 220 US dollars. So that one's a little bit risky right now. To me, it looks like it's still in a downtrend. I'm still taking scalp shorts on this guy, basically. But yeah, for now, I just don't see anything overly bullish on the longer time frames there. And right now, even if we get some sort of a buy signal and get some sort of a bounce on the 5-minute, we have obviously lost these buy signals here, and I would be looking at a lower sell signal coming in. So basically, if we did get some sort of a bounce on this guy, at this point, I would be looking at resistance, something like this, just pulling a fib from where we topped out in our previous range, basically, and looking for resistance to basically carry on the trend to the downside. So see what happens there. How is everyone else feeling about the market? Are you guys scared about the weekly candle? Are you excited? How is everyone feeling about it? For those of you who are traders like myself and look at the markets for what they are, just basically trading on market structure, you shouldn't really have too strong of opinions, other than if you're like me, being very excited that I think the market's going to get very volatile with this weekly close. That obviously means that there's some added risk. Things are going to be jumping and yo-yoing all over the place. There's going to be a lot of volatility both directions, but I really am still favoring the downside, just because I think the weekly charts look so bad, in my opinion. And again, the 4-hour just needs to at least break some structure. If the 4-hour can at least break even just a micro lower high like this, at least there's something favoring that there could be some sort of a reversal, right? Until that happens, it's all just hopiums. It's all guessing. We need some sort of a structure break. And I hope you guys are crushing it. I hope you're not only surviving, I hope you are absolutely thriving in these market conditions. I've been pointing out this indicator a lot recently, you guys, is the retail long short. And you can see that this whole downtrend here, that retail longs have been increasing, right? Basically, we just see the retail longs climbing to the upside. We see retail longs are currently at 77%. It's absolutely crazy. And retail just continues trying to catch the knife and long these dips. And that just gives the fuel to the fire that the market makers can continue pushing this lower. So I do think it's only a matter of time until retail finally decides to FOMO short. Let's actually zoom into the 1-hour where we can see it a little more live. But if we do see shorts start stepping into the market, at that point, I would expect us to get some sort of a bounce. But as it stands right now, we still just see shorts dropping off a cliff. I have to zoom in so much because there is so many people longing right now. But yeah, we can still see that retail longs are climbing. So it is getting a little bit ridiculous and a little overextended. So yeah, eventually there has to be a reversal on that, and that'll give us some breathing room and we can actually bounce at some point. But yeah, as soon as retail starts FOMOing long again into resistance, as they like to do, then I would expect that bounce to come to an end. So as it stands right now, unfortunately, this is a visualization right here of your average retail trader just getting wrecked, right? From here, where we ended up setting our highs basically and trading sideways at resistance, you can see this whole time that longs were climbing, and then we ended up getting that push to the downside, setting new lows. So at this point, if we bounce up towards resistance again, that's where you'll start to see these longs climb again. If these longs drop off and shorts start building, that's where you'll see that, hey, you know what? That makes sense. Retail is starting to FOMO short into support, as they typically do. That would be the perfect opportunity to end up pushing a little bit higher, right? But yeah, like I said, as soon as that flips around again, you're likely going to see a rejection again, just because anything in the macro timeframes, the 4-hour and up, everything just looks so bad right now. BTC in a bear market. Honestly, I also think that it is, but I'm happy to be wrong about that, right? There's invalidations. I don't use GAN. Is that like GAN fibs, GAN fork pulls, whatever? Yeah, I personally don't use that. I've seen other people post pictures of it. I just don't use it myself, so I don't want to try and figure it out right now. Which indicator do I recommend to track liquidation moves? The one I use is the MDX ALGO liquidations indicator. And this one, I mean, this is one that I've been talking about for quite a while, that, you know, we are building so much liquidity above us. There's so many liquidations forming above us. So you would think at some point we're going to see an aggressive bounce, but at this point we just don't have the structure backing that up. We keep forming these little pockets of liquidity below us, and then the market ends up going and grabbing those, even though there's so much more above us, right? So basically I'm not trading based on this solely, but it is interesting. And this indicator, I do love keeping an eye on it, just to basically consider, is it possible we get some sort of a bounce, and a much bigger one than a, you know, a typical down to or up to the lower high kind of a thing? Yeah, you know what? There is some very serious liquidity and liquidations way above us. And it would make sense for the market makers at some point to want to grab a bunch of that. So a bounce isn't off the table, but just understand that it is what it is. At that point, it's just a bounce to me at this point. There's still such nasty, nasty market structure. So even if we ended up getting a bounce back up towards all-time highs, I mean, we just have this nasty downswing, right? So not saying we can't break it, but just understand that if we get that bounce, be careful to respect resistance, basically. Try not to FOMO right into resistance. But yeah, liquidations indicator, I love bringing that up to see if it makes sense, if moves can happen. And yeah, you know, it does make sense that we could get a bounce, but this trend, until we at least see some sort of a trend break, I'm just not interested in looking, because basically the way I look at it is market structure is always the most important. From there, I like to look at indicators for additional confluence. So I'm not going the opposite way. I want to make sure that structure lines up with it before I take it all too serious. Can I show the retail long for Ethereum? I don't even know if that's a thing, to be honest. I think it's just Bitcoin that's on that indicator. Yeah, almost 80% long. Retail is not willing to give up. Exactly, right? Sandy, you have helped me stay safe. Thank you. That is so awesome to hear. I love to hear that kind of testimony. Thank you for sharing that. And I love to be, you know, just, that's the thing, just trying to be the voice of reason and just trying to explain things for how they appear in the charts. More interested in looking at the charts for what's actually there and trading the charts that are there, rather than something that I hope the fundamentals end up turning the charts into a few weeks from now, right? Very different. Retail is making a stand. Yeah, no kidding. They're really sending a message that they are not scared to play with knives. Hurley, that's true. 30% corrections are normal in bull markets. The only reason why I have such concerns with it is because of also losing structure levels. It's not so much just that we've lost, you know, those 30% corrections. What have we dropped actually so far? Yeah, about 26%. But yeah, you are right. We have seen those in previous market cycles. It is natural, but just how we're losing such important levels, it's lining up with the 4-year cycle. There's so many things happening. Just important to be aware that anything can happen, right? I am going to be bearish until proven otherwise. So at least, like I said, just a 4-hour break in structure. If we get something like this, where we break one of these lower highs, we get a pullback to some sort of a STUBER fib. In a case like that, yeah, I'd be willing to play some sort of a long, if nothing else, as a hedge against my shorts, if I have any open at that point. But yeah, that at least would have something favoring some bullish momentum. Bitcoin getting ready for Black Friday. Exactly. Exactly. It does look like quite a Black Friday sale going on right now. And like I said, with this weekly candle close, unfortunately, this move may just be starting. I hope it can get invalidated. I hope we can reclaim that level and start staircasing higher and go into our parabolic run that we've all been promised over and over. But as the market structure that is currently there, it just looks real nasty, you guys. That's unfortunately all there is to it. Anyways, my friends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. I just really wanted to bring you guys a quick live stream with the weekly candle coming to a close within the next hour here. So I just wanted to kind of put some of those levels on your radar that I'm currently looking at. So if you do appreciate these live streams, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And like I said earlier, for those of you interested in learning and seeing more examples of some of my personal trade strategies, some of my setup ideas, how I use Fibonacci's and market structure, and you just want more of my thoughts on the market in general, do yourselves a favor, get in my Telegram by scanning the QR code on the screen or clicking the link in the description down below. And with that, thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.